Wow, good morning and welcome to Dialogue Box. This is a beautiful, bright and sunny weather out there. It may be raining in some areas, but we are enjoying some form of bright sunshine here. And we'd like to say happy new month. It's the month of July, and we are grateful to God for how much He has brought us in this very challenging year 2020. So you are welcome to our show Dialogue Box. And we know that as we've been addressing different issues, we've been seeking for solutions, proffering solutions to the government, and also giving them the counsel that we think they should take, considering the different areas that we've been talking about. And don't forget, Dialogue Box is a program that, like as we have said, we are talking the nation in the right direction. And good news also came to us, like we announced yesterday, that the National Assembly, in addition with the federal government, that's President Muhammadu Buhari and the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, they agreed that the DISCOs, as the distribution companies of the power sector, should put on hold every plan to increase tariffs. And for this, we are really, really happy about this development, and we say that more of it should be looked into before the DISCOs will start another round of agitations. So you're welcome to Dialogue Box. Let's quickly give you some updates on what is happening in different areas before we move on to what we are discussing this morning. This morning we'll be talking about the government issuing directives and the ASUU stance that schools should not resume yet. So in other words, government has issued directive that schools should resume, talking about the GSS 3 students and the SS3 students, but the ASUU is saying that no, that schools should not resume yet because of some conditions they listed. So we'll also talk about some of those areas. And for those of us that would like to call in during the program, you can call us on this number, 090 52 52 5107. I take that again, 090 5252 5107. So you can reach us with this number. That's if you would like to call in. Then all of us, we are all welcome to make our comments, send in your opinions, and we'll also read it out, and it's part of our program for this morning. So don't forget, we are talking about the government's directive on school resumption and ASUU stance that schools should not resume yet. So what do we have to say about that? And as we talk, reactions were always coming from the government circle. They've been listening to us, and they can also tell the people that this is the way to go. So let's take our stand and continue in this. So like I said earlier, some very quick heads up on what is happening in different parts as we also talk the nation in the right direction. All right, the federal government has announced committees on the 774,000 jobs that will be created across the 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, FCT. That means they are working towards a very stable committee. That's a front that will ensure that these jobs are actually created. Though there are a lot of underlying tension right now between the senators, the National Assembly, and the Ministry of Works, the Ministry of Labor. So we are saying that the Senate should not have anything to do with that. We've gotten some feedback that some senators are asking for 15% of that 774,000 people that will be given jobs between now and October. So there's no need for that. Whatever is leading to that tension should be resolved, and that issue should be addressed with immediate effect. Then we have it that interstate transport firms have resumed operations without fare increase. This is the feedback getting to us. So for now, we say good work, thumbs up for all the transport companies that are in charge of interstate travels, that they've resumed and there was no unnecessary increase in transport fares. Then on the political scene, the All Progressives Congress, as the APC, they've constituted reconciliation committees for Edo State and Ondo State, talking about the issues they had with the election, the upcoming election, the party flag bearers, and all of that. So we say this is a good one, working in the right direction, talking about the constitution of reconciliation committees. Then the leaders of the National Assembly have explained their position against the plan to increase electricity tariffs. So they explained why they kicked against it. And the Senate President Ahmad Lawan and the House of Representatives Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, they met, they spoke with the President and the Vice President, and they agreed that for now, the economy is still picking up. A lot of Nigerians are still trying to settle down financially, and several issues are still on because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So this is not the right time for electricity tariffs to be increased. And so they explained that they didn't just kick against it for no reason, but because of the state of the nation at the moment. So for now, it is till further notice. Then moving on, the President has approved the appointment of Professor Adesoji Adesugba as the new Managing Director of NEBZA. And NEBZA is the Nigerian Export Processing Zones Authority. So we see this as a good development, and we also say that the new MD of NEBZA should work on a very strong export system for our country, because any economy that is based on just mostly importation will not thrive. So we are calling on Professor Adesoji Adesugba to take up the responsibility, not just as one of those political offices that are given to you, but like we say in BlossomNigeria and on Dialogue Box, we promote service. So whatever it is we are doing, remember the fact that you are working for people. So it's not just about occupying an office. So Professor Adesoji Adesugba, congratulations, and we look forward to more reports, more positive reports from the export processing zone of Nigeria. Now, Dialogue Box has also gotten a lot of stories, reports, feedbacks reaching us that ghost workers, the issue of ghost workers is really a major challenge in the public sector right now. That's the public service sector. So a very sizable number of ghost workers are occupying both the state government working authorities, the federal government, and even the local government. So we are saying no to ghost workers, because that's a very terrible way of siphoning money from the government, and we say no to it. And we even got a report that the Kwara State, the Kwara State Permanent Secretary and 4 others were suspended because of the issue of ghost workers. So whatever it is, Nigerians learn to serve and see service as an act. You are doing it for not just for yourself, but for the good of others. So no to ghost workers from us in the Dialogue Box team. Then the President, we announced yesterday that the President will be flagging off the gas project at the Ajaokuta, Kaduna and Kano. So he did it yesterday, but it was a virtual flag off ceremony. And it's a very interesting one because the President is embracing more of the digital world. So he didn't need to travel to Ajaokuta. He had a virtual flag off ceremony, but it was represented by the Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello and the Kaduna State Governor El Rufai. So that's a good one for the government. Then for the COVID-19 challenge, Anambra State government has identified 6 herbal products for the management of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this was announced by Onyekachukwu Ibezim. He's a special advisor to the governor on indigenous medicine and herbal supplements. So they've sent the herbal supplements that have been discovered to NAFDAC for further research and tests. So, but whatever it is, we see this as a good development because, like we said last week, no matter how much or how many testing centers we have out there, we should also work towards creating solution centers that can help us generate cures for COVID-19, because we believe that COVID-19 is not a virus that is beyond cure. So something should be done about it. So for Anambra State to come out formally to announce that they have identified 6 herbal products that can be used in tackling the COVID-19 virus, we see this as a plus. So well done to Anambra State for that. Then a core member, that's National Youth Service Corps, Mampasu Matthias, has invented an automated hand washing machine in Osun State. Congratulations to Mampasu Matthias, that's a very good one. A core member who has invented an automated hand washing machine. So this is also another plus for the system. Now, before we round off on this, we'd like to remind Nigerians that the Oba of Benin has been kicking against those peddling rumors against the government about President Muhammadu Buhari's integrity and whatever is out there. So he has come out openly, he has even addressed the press to say, no, it is not a good trend. So let's listen to the Oba of Benin as a royal father in Nigeria. So whoever is doing this or whichever group is peddling these rumors, we would like to toe the line of the Oba of Benin to say, no, let's not do this, because we are working towards making the nation thrive better. So peddling rumors that are based on nothing will not help us get far. All right. As we kick off on our topic this morning, let's not forget that interstate movement has fully resumed, so people can travel now. Also, domestic flights are fully on, so those who would like to use domestic flights, that has also resumed. And the issue that we are now talking about this morning is school students that the government said should resume the JSS3 and the SS3. ASUU has come up to say no, that they should not resume until the government meets some conditions. So what are those conditions? So let's quickly give you a background. So the Academic Staff Union of Universities on Monday kicked against the reopening of schools by the federal government due to the COVID-19 pandemic currently ravaging the country. Professor Biodun Ogunyemi, ASUU'S National President, said the federal government needed to address the challenges of the education sector before it can talk of reopening schools. So, Professor Ogunyemi has urged the federal government to provide the ideal environment and take the lead by meeting the conditions spelled out by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control before reopening schools. He said the federal government must lead the way by meeting the conditions for reopening of schools before any school can be allowed to open. Because according to him, COVID-19 pandemic is a major health challenge. Then the ASUU president also listed the conditions spelled out by the NCDC to include the provision of materials for regular washing of hands in each school, face mask by students in all the schools, isolation centers in schools, space for social distancing, and provision of hand sanitizers. So these are some of the conditions the ASUU president is giving to the government, that if schools must reopen, there must be, let me read out the conditions again, materials for regular washing of hands, face mask, isolation centers, space for social distancing, and provision of hand sanitizers. So Ogunyemi said many of the schools do not even have the financial capacity to meet these conditions and requirements for the reopening of schools. So in his words, he said it is suicidal to reopen schools if the federal government cannot meet the conditions spelled out by the NCDC and World Health Organization. So he said the nation will expose the innocent children to risk, which is avoidable. So now, with all that the ASUU president has listed out, our government, are they ready to meet these conditions? Do we have what they are asking for? And according to the ASUU president, if these conditions are not met, there's no need for schools to resume, because according to him, it will be suicidal. So we'd like to hear your thoughts, your opinion on this. What do you think the government should do to meet with these conditions and see to it that beyond paying lip service, they are actually doing the right thing and working in the right direction to give the schools an ideal learning environment? So send us your thoughts, send us your comments, and let us talk more about this. Then, while we are getting your comments this morning, Ogunyemi has also wondered that many of these schools cannot even afford hand sanitizers, not even running water in most of these schools. So they don't even have facilities for social distancing. So the ASUU president has said that putting all these requirements together, which most schools will not be able to afford, he has appealed to the federal government to provide the running funds, that's what he called it, for the principals and head teachers so that they can provide some of these facilities in their schools. He said the federal government needed to tell Nigerians the steps they intended to take in reopening of schools. So the fact is, with these very, very interesting facts by the ASUU chairman, what is your opinion in working out practical solutions for the education sector based on the government directive? So we are getting your comments now. Just a second. So these are very, very key points that we need to consider. We have very, very key points, as I have said earlier. So now talk to us and let us know what is on your mind concerning this. So while that is going on, let's take some of these comments. Good morning, Blossom. Happy month of July. Thank you, Christian. Then Yeshua Iben says, good morning, Blossom Nigeria. Great program. Thank you. Talk to us on your thoughts. What do you think about schools reopening by the directive by the federal government, and ASUU saying no, schools cannot resume unless these conditions are met? So talk to us. Grace Emmanuel says, it is great to start a new month with Blossom Nigeria. Let us roll. Thank you. Then Blossom Nigeria, it says, what are the precautions and amenities the federal government is putting in place before reopening of schools? That's what we should be hearing from the FG. This should be one of our team members writing this, that what are the precautions and amenities the federal government is putting in place before reopening of schools. And that's what we'll be hearing from the government. So is the government ready to talk to us on this? Because we need to know, if you are asking schools to resume and you have given some very wonderful requirements to different sectors, why should the education sector be different? And if students are coming together, that means you have to make provision for social distancing, for hand sanitizers, for hand washing equipment, for isolation centers, and all of it. So with all that has been pointed out, what can the government do? Because government, you need to sit up. This is it. Because you can't just ask schools to resume when most of these amenities are not in place. And right now, most schools don't even have what it takes. When you talk about social distancing, it will be, it's like, we'll call it, is it like a caricature would say now, something that it is not even obtainable right now, because in schools, public schools, you see an average of 80 students, 90 students in a class. So when you have such a huge number of students in a class, and a teacher is supposed to be talking to them, you are expecting noise, you are expecting a lot of body rubbing one another, different things that you see there. So if the government is telling others to observe social distancing, then what are you telling the school students? So whether they are the JSS 3 or the SS 3 students, most of these cases or most of these issues are still on ground. And that is why the ASUU chairman, the ASUU president, is calling attention to these areas. If the government is asking schools to resume, then they must meet these conditions. But the question is, how far can we go and how much can we take? Because we really need the government to sit up. But the year is already the month of July, so the year is also running fast. It's not waiting for us. Can the government put all of these in place before a time that we can really say students have taking out their time for the term? Because normally they were supposed to be maybe embarking on holidays and getting ready to resume by the month of September. But as it is right now, government is saying those in GSS3 and SS3 should resume because of their upcoming examinations. But if all these things are not yet in place, how much can we do and how much can we take for the government to work on an effective system that is sincere and transparent? So we have Coco talking to us. Coco says, "Good morning, Blossom Nigeria. Before opening schools, I am of the opinion that schools should meet up with ASUU and WHO criteria. The lives of our children matter. They should meet with ASUU and they should meet up with ASUU and WHO criteria." So what ASUU is stating is actually the NCDC criteria. Let's read them out again. The NCDC criteria that the ASUU chairman is making reference to. He said, you can also call in while we are doing this. Let me read out the phone number for you to call. 090-5252-5107. 090-5252-5107. So let's get some of those criteria that the ASUU chairman referred to. It says, according to the NCDC, many of these schools cannot afford to resume if they don't have provision of hand sanitizers. Just a second. Okay, I have it here. Provision of materials for hand washing, face mask, provision of hand sanitizers, isolation centers, and space for social distancing. Is this can we expect a miracle to happen in this sector for now for social distancing, or social distancing is not really a major fact that should be considered? Because right now, when we talk about social distancing in public schools, is this obtainable? And if it is, what can the government do within the shortest possible time to meet up with this demand? Very, very key. So send us your comments, talk to us, and let us also take your call. Your call is coming in, let us know so that we can also take it. So Coco has also said that what ASUU has demanded for and the WHO should be met because the lives of our students, of our children, they matter. And that's correct. The lives of our children matter. So nobody wants to say because my child went to school, he contacted or contracted coronavirus, and from there one thing or the other happened. No, we don't want that. So if the government is asking students to open, most of these things should be in place. But our question to the government is that, are you serious about these terms and conditions? Are you really sincere about them? Because if you are, then you can't ask students to resume when you have not even met your own part of the deal. You're asking them to come to school that are overcrowded, schools that, according to the ASUU chairman, a lot of them don't even have running water, schools that even talking about hand sanitizers for how many students in class is like something is like paying lip service to the real fact. So most of these conditions, they sound ideal, you know, but the main issue is that they may not be practical in some sense, but we are asking that the government should work on making them practical. The government should work on meeting up with these demands. And like the ASUU chairman said, for schools to open, you have to take the lead. You have to play by example and play by the set of rules that you have given to others. You can't give others rules to follow, and you yourself, you are not willing to follow those rules. You are the education sector, the education ministry. You have all that it takes. And the other day, we were even talking about the fact that slashing education budget and the health sector budget and giving it to the renovation of the National Assembly complex, that it didn't make any sense. So we're talking about issues like that, and we said that for us in Nigeria, we should learn to pay utmost attention to those things that are really of priority. Because we know that the National Assembly complex is a good thing to renovate, but you can't take from education budget and the health sector budget to rehabilitate the National Assembly. So we are saying that for education, we don't want anything to affect it. So we are telling the government to stand up to their role and do what they are supposed to do. Yeshua Iben is saying, just a second. Are there provision of hand sanitizers, isolation centers in marketplaces? I beg you, make them open schools and churches for us. Corona na scam. That's what Yeshua Iben is saying. Are there isolation centers? Are there hand sanitizers in marketplaces? I beg you, make them open schools and churches. So what is your take on this? Joy Chinedu Samuel says, if the schools are to be opened, what are the measures being put in place for the students? That's what we are talking about, Joy Chinedu Samuel. Thank you so much for this comment. If the schools are to be opened, what are the measures the government is putting in place? These are some of the measures they are supposed to be putting in place, but we have not seen them. And that is why the ASUU chairman is saying schools should not open until the government meet up with these criteria. And they also said, Francis Chukwu is saying, if a child contracts COVID-19 while in school, what are the modalities of tackling such cases? That's why the ASUU chairman is calling for isolation centers in school. If you check the direction and the requirements given by the ASUU chairman, he listed isolation centers as one of the conditions the government should meet before asking students to resume school. So we believe that with such, he is looking at a situation where if, for instance, anybody contracts the COVID-19 virus, maybe while in school, at least they should have an isolation center like a health center that should be able to tackle the preliminary stages before such a person can be referred to a major, maybe hospital or health center. So that's that for that issue raised by Francis Chukwu. Then Yeshua Iben is saying that coronavirus is a scam. Do you believe that? If it is a scam, then the government should come out and tell everybody that this thing is actually, and which the government will never do, this thing is actually not as real as you thought. So asking us to provide facilities for social distancing in schools is like asking for, how do we call it now? What kind of situation can we liken it to? It doesn't really, it's not very practical right now, but we're asking the government, if you are really sincere and you are serious about the terms and conditions you are giving to others, let the education sector also have it. Social distancing, can you meet up with it? Do we have the facilities? Hand sanitizers, can you ensure that the principals and the head teachers have the necessary funds, the running cost funds, to take care of these basics? And for the students themselves, do they have what it takes to give themselves the right ideal environment to learn without being overcrowded? So we are all on this issue, and the ASUU chairman has said it. But while we are working towards the government answering or meeting up with these conditions, we're also, like I said earlier, time is not waiting. This is already the month of July, which we're excited about, but we're also considering the education future or the educational future of our children and our students. So if we're still keeping them at home till the government meets up with all of these conditions, how and when do we think it will be realized and it will be achieved? And is this something that we can really wait for, fold our hands and wait for until it is complete before our students can go back to school? And if we are sure that these terms and conditions are what everybody, every school, every institution should imbibe, then everything should be done to hasten up the preparation for the resumption of schools in the federal scene, the states, and even in the everywhere. Schools should have all these terms and conditions met. But the federal government cannot tell schools to resume without meeting up with these conditions. The funds are not there. No extra maybe funds to take care of some of these other requirements that they have listed out. And even the GSS3 and the SS3 students you are asking to resume school, they are still coming in their numbers. Are you ready to take care of that? Tackle that with creating the right isolation centers? So call us and let us have your opinion on this. Then we have Francis Chukwu is also asking here, It says, if there is there an orientation for children about COVID-19? How do you handle 80 children in a public school? That's what we said earlier. A lot of times you go to public schools, you see an average of 80 to 90 students in a class. So is there the right orientation for them at this point in time? Do they have the right orientation? And how do you handle such? So Grace Emmanuel is saying, she says, lol, that's laugh out loud. It is funny. ASUU went on strike just before the situation became critical and led to the lockdown. They had internal crisis. They needed some matters to settle with the federal government. Now, let me take more of a comment. They needed some matters to settle with the federal government. Now the federal government is asking them to put measures in place for precautions, one after the other. In other words, it is like a joker. Then Christian Etemike says, is ASUU speaking about the virus or outstanding and pending issues with the federal government? From what I read, it's like a mixture of both. For now, ASUU is talking about the virus, and they think that the government has not done the needful, so they can't ask students to resume. So, but they may have had some other issues that they've been trying to get the government to attend to before now. So whatever it is, they have said that for now, the young children, the students should not resume until the government meets with this condition. So do you agree with that? Do you think the students should stay at home until government does all its modalities and come up with the rehabilitation of schools, the provision of social distancing materials, isolation centers, and just name it? Do you think we can do that? And if the government is sincere, how fast can they go in meeting up with these demands? Then Christian also says, I haven't really heard much about children infected. And if more than or about 90% will make a full recovery of the infected adult population, then there is not much to worry about. In other words, he is of the opinion that most children have really not had issues with infection, talking about being infected with the coronavirus. So he thinks that children can cope with it. Then Savior Nduka says, they keep saying don't open schools. For what exactly? Is it to prevent the children from being exposed? Mind you, other sectors have been opened, and the same parents kicking against the reopening of schools. It's not the parents kicking against the reopening of schools this time around. It's the ASUU chairman and the ASUU president. So let me continue with this. Wow. So I was reading it, so let's continue. This is a real documentary. It says, the same parents kicking against the reopening of schools expose themselves to crowded markets, offices, especially banks, and still come back home to the same words they are trying to protect. What sense is there in all that? It only takes one exposed person to infect thousands of contacts if we are to go by the epileptic policy, and if this disease is still really that widespread. Take the case of a father who infected his entire family some months ago. Did the children go to any school? Please let the educational sector also be opened. COVID-19 has reduced to the barest minimum, and with the right precautionary measures in place, there won't be any rebound of the pandemic. The teachers are also the worst hit of the lockdown, with no form of support or relief from the government. If we all decide to change career and quit teaching for good, then will people understand our importance and the need to put us into consideration first before any other profession? So we are the medium to civilization. Without us, the world future will be bleak, and ignorance will be the order of the day. Then Christian says, and the issue should not just border on fear, sentiment, position as a pressure group of voice, or even academic submission. Just a second. What goals did we set out to achieve at the beginning of the pandemic? What has been done? Where are we at now compared to 3 months ago? What is being done to make us return to our normal lives? We have a call coming in. Let's quickly take that call before we round off the program. So he is saying, hello.
Hello, good morning, ma.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm excellent, ma. Ma, this is Yeshua Iben calling from Enugu.
Okay. You have a suggestion?
Yes, ma. I'm actually of the opinion that schools in Nigeria should reopen, because if marketplaces can be open, offices can be open, so why are they now saying that schools should not be open? And moreover, I don't really believe in coronavirus, because in school we were taught that we should breathe in oxygen and not carbon dioxide. So if you are telling children that you have to put on face masks, they have to do this, I actually feel that is self-poisoning. So I don't know why the government is still, at this point, is still saying that children should remain at home. It makes no sense. If marketplaces, are there isolation centers in marketplaces? No. Are there isolation centers in banks? No. Are there isolation centers in offices? No.
Okay,
so why are they keeping the children at home?
Okay, thank you so much for that. But a quick question. You know that this is the ASUU chairman that is asking that schools should not reopen. Even though the government has said the JSS3 and the SS3 should resume first. Maybe they want to use it to study the situation. So now that ASUU is saying this, are we now telling the ASUU not to take this stand? Because right now we are also looking at the future of our children.
But I actually feel that I'm of the opinion that the ASUU chairman is not affected by the coronavirus because he's rich. There are lots of teachers that are at home right now that really need their lesson money, that really need their salary. Private school teachers, some of them earn 30,000, and one person that is there that is receiving millions is telling them not to reopen schools.
Okay.
So I don't really agree with the ASUU chairman.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for that. We appreciate your call.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. We have all been giving our opinions, and they will keep coming in. Don't stop. Talk to us. Send your opinions to our page on Facebook, Blossom Nigeria. Excuse me, Blossom Nigeria on Facebook. So let's keep hearing from you, and also our website, www.blossomnigeria.com. Keep talking to us, and like we have said, don't keep children at home if you know that these requirements are not practicable. They are the right steps we should be taking right now. They are ideal. The government should look into this. But like we said, if the government is really sincere, I'm sure they should have done far more than what they have done for the education sector right now. So they need to stand up to the fact that the requirements and the terms and conditions they are giving to other sectors, if the education sector is also imbibing, which they should, then they should be able to meet up with the conditions they are listing. So, but for any reason, some of us think that the coronavirus is not really as, in quotes, as genuine as it ought to be. So if that is the case, they should look at all these issues, address them, and see how to work out a very sustainable future for our children, talking about their education. We can't keep them at home with the wrong promises and telling them that things are working out, and at the end of the day, nothing is being done. So if the government wants them to resume and they can do something to that effect, go ahead. But from the point of view of the ASUU chairman, which he also has his own points, though Yeshua even believes that the ASUU chairman does not understand what is happening to other teachers because he seems to be rich. Whatever be the reason, we are saying that the terms and conditions of the ASUU should continue. They should keep pressing for it, but at this point, government needs to act fast. What they should do to provide the necessary funds for schools, for the head teachers, to put some of these sanitary measures in place. Running water, hand sanitizers, hand washing equipment, and even if they don't seem to work on the social distancing rule, because that seems to be ideal, but like a lot of us pointed out, how many of us are doing social distancing in the marketplaces? How many of us are doing social distancing in the banks? So if we are sincere with ourselves, we should stand up to the truth and work towards the bright and sustainable future for our children. And that is what we are saying this morning. Thank you so much for joining us on Dialogue Box. So we'll talk more about some of these issues tomorrow. I am Blossom, and I believe in the Nigerian dream. Thank you.